Are chairs on the stage, on the church are they elders' chairs? What do they represent? Why are there chairs on the stage? Therefore, especially when there are so many and nobody sits on them. All right. Why? Why? Now, by and large, chairs on the stage in a church are typically for elders or session members. All right. So historically, these were there. In the past, we use it for Holy Communion. Before I was a pastor, so even non-session members, they come up and they sit there. By and large, it's meant for at the most session members. Right? So it's just historically there, we didn't remove them. Now it is a picture of the people who are ruling the church, serving the church, coming up here to serve. That's what it is. So typically it's for that use. Now it's the same principle of, let's say, are they sacred and all that, like the pulpit. What about the pulpit? Now all these things are church principles that I think is good for church to learn. Now parents, do you let your child come up here and run around and come up here and try to talk, that kind of thing? You don't. Why don't you? Because you know certain areas, they are meant for certain purposes. It is not meant for this kind of things. All right? So same for the pulpit. It's meant for preaching. It's meant for teaching. Should be kept for that. So there is a certain understanding of when things happen here, we should be serious. That is what it is. All right? Both for the person using the pulpit as well as the people who see someone comes up to the pulpit, someone comes up here. So it's the understanding. Okay? So now in fact, if you check in past history in the church, no one uses the pulpit except the pastor, the preacher. It's only meant for preaching. Announcements and all that is a separate podium, right? Because the church want to relate the pulpit to the word ministry only. It's very strong because they know now you cannot avoid this. It's a thought that will be planted in the mind, right? So that is why by and large we only have a deacon's chair now, and those are the changes that I made. And Holy Communion only served by, actually should only be served by elders. We don't have, so next only deacons. They don't really sit up here now for outreach purposes, and also we end up in the live stream. All right, it's very distracting. So some of these things we made some changes, but by and large it should be understood that way. Now over time, when churches were not careful, what happened is this. Now that's why even announcements like after, if I use this pulpit, an announcement maybe for presentation of our church extension, you'll find that we didn't use here, we used there. All right, we kept this to very clear is for the preaching ministry. Now, so over time when churches were not so careful, what they had was, the lay people, not even the deacons or other, lay people began to come up and read scriptures and lead singing, right? We studied all those in our church history. What's wrong with that, right? So they began to do that. Now, then they began to have, now initially people were not comfortable. No, it should be reserved for a focused place for receiving the word. Now I'm not saying this is in the Bible, but people understood and they found the value. Then slowly they had lay people come out and use the pulpit. Then slowly they had women come up and use the pulpit. Then slowly, initially people were not comfortable. Then slowly they got comfortable. How do you think it transit? By the time a woman come up here to chair, they were not uncomfortable already. How do you think by the time a woman comes up here to preach at the pulpit, they were already fine with it? Because of all these little changes. All right? So that is why most churches maintain that. Most churches also maintain a pulpit in the middle. Okay? Even at church camp, we want the pulpit to be in the middle. It's a central focus. That is what it is trying to imply. Not so much of the person behind it. Now, then the other one is, so why is it elevated? For focus. That kind of thing. Now, so for parents, be careful, teach your children, don't be disrespectful of this area. In fact, it's good now. People who come up, they say, Pastor, I prefer not to be at the pulpit. Because there is a strong sense of, we need to know the pulpit is a serious place. So some of them, they just say, don't use the pulpit. That's why prayer meeting, we definitely use the podium. All right? Now, the other one, so this is not holy ground. Doesn't mean that none of you can come up here to clean, to touch anything. It's holy ground. All right? Remove your shoes before you come up. All right? Bathe 7 times before you touch the pulpit. Not that kind of thing. What the Roman Catholics, they call it an altar. That kind of thing. We don't call it an altar. All right? We simply call it the Holy Communion table. All right? But there must be a decorum understanding. So parents, teach your children these things. Otherwise they will grow up without a sense of decorum at all. At one time we have to tell the children, stop. Now even the church, beyond here the next area is the sanctuary. It's called a sanctuary for a reason. Teach your children, don't run around, scream in the sanctuary. All right? Because they will grow up knowing that once I step into sanctuary, I should be serious. I should be respectful. Not that this place is anything special, but they link it, a sanctuary, with receiving the word and worshiping God and that kind of thing, right? So teach them. At one time, children were taking the elderly, those pads, those seat pads, they were using it as for sliding in the church, right? That kind of thing. No, you should not. They should learn decorum, right? These are things that are lost in the world. They will grow up as disrespectful to God's things. All right? So learn that. That's why I say don't sit on the table. That kind of thing is use things for the right things. Okay? At one time, someone said, a child told another teacher, this teacher allowed me to sit on the table. Then we checked. The teacher said, of course not. All right? So children, don't play punk. When you're caught sitting on the table by a Sunday school teacher, you tell another Sunday school teacher, oh no, that teacher said I could sit on the table. All right? Don't play punk. Be serious about these things. All right? That's all. Overshot. Let's close in prayer. What do we have here? Top 5 reasons why church dropouts, what church dropouts say, why they stop attending church. Now, please remember 66% of, well, I take the American view, they are the most readily available results. They stop attending church at least a year after turning 18. So from